Why is he destroying our family of 5? The fact that my husband seems to have a favorite child is driving a wedge in our family. Be patient with me because this is a lengthy tale, but I would be eternally grateful for any advice you can give. I must say right from the very beginning that my husband is an excellent human being. I and our children are incredibly fortunate to have him as our provider. No one has ever accused him of being disloyal, violent, secretive, or manipulative. His one major shortcoming is that he has an obvious preference for one of our children over the other. 3 of our sons are in their adolescent years: Jason, 18, Luke, 15, and Simon, 13. Among our children, my husband adores Simon the most. Even our own children are aware of this, and that is the most painful aspect. This isn't how things started. When we were married, my husband would lavish equal affection on each of our sons. However, Simon became gravely ill with pneumonia when he was 5 years old. Simon wanted nothing more than his dad throughout his hospital stay, even though it was a terrible moment for us both. Their shared experience formed an unbreakable link. Ever since, my husband has been too protective of Simon, causing strain in his relationship with Jason and Luke. The favoritism became apparent to Jason and Luke as they grew older, and they were understandably wounded by it. In our many chats over the years, I stressed the importance of my husband keeping in mind that he is a father to 3 sons, not just one. Even while he tries to be more present and attentive with Jason and Luke, his efforts are always short-lived. Whenever Simon needs him, he quickly returns to his super dad role. Everything reached a peak today. At Luke's school, there was an award ceremony, and he was supposed to get one. Due to the continuing pandemic, the event took place virtually, and the lads are currently taking classes online. A recent distance learning event, which essentially consisted of a big group video conference, was organized at Luke's school to acknowledge the students' academic accomplishments. Also, there was a raffle for multiple prizes. One of those prizes was a gaming system that Luke had his heart set on, so he was understandably thrilled. In order to increase their chances of winning the raffle, parents were asked to participate in the event from the comfort of their own laptops. Work prevented me from going, but I did invite my husband to go in his place. The whole process took less than 30 minutes and required him to just access the internet, observe the announcement of Luke's name, and wait. This would improve Luke's odds of receiving the prize he desired by a little margin. It didn't take much work since it was online. Usually, I was the one who enjoyed these kinds of school events more than my husband, who was usually too busy with work to make it. But I saw that he was the one who showed up most often at Simon-related activities. I figured my husband could easily take care of this as he is now largely working from home. I made sure he logged in on the day of the event by reminding him before I went for work. To make sure he had all the necessary materials, I even resent the invitation linked to him while I was at work. He confirmed his attendance. Luke remained in his room, engrossed in his laptop, as the celebration came to a close. Despite this, my husband was never a part of the conference call. I didn't have a chance to check in until over an hour after the event concluded due to my hectic work schedule. I finally reached out to my husband to find out how things went, and he informed me that he attempted to join, but the link wasn't working. The more I pressed him for an explanation of trying to join, the more irritated I became, and after the event had concluded, my husband said, "Oh, I thought you said it was now." I was furious. I told him multiple times when and how to join, but he still misunderstood the timing and missed the event. Timely link clicks were all that was required of him. I waited until I came home before confronting him, even though I was enraged. I got home and saw Jason's, our eldest son, car in the driveway. Since Jason is a college student with his own apartment, he is no longer a resident of our home. Upon entering, I noticed Simon in the living room, his expression betraying his distress. He informed me that the other boys were arguing with their dad when I inquired as to what was wrong. My husband had brought Simon to get frozen yogurt earlier, and when I asked him what had happened, he said he didn't know the details, but that Luke had been very angry and called Jason. When I wanted to know when they left, Simon told me it was around 10 minutes before Luke's event began. He took Simon to have frozen yogurt instead of attending the event. I found out afterward that Simon had been pleading with him to go, so my husband caved. Just then, my husband, Jason, and Luke all hurriedly descended the stairs while continuing to yell. Along with Luke's belongings, Jason possessed a duffel bag. Jason informed me that he was inviting Luke to spend some time at his place after I inquired about what was happening. I informed Jason that while Luke was welcome to spend the night, he couldn't suddenly uproot and live with him. Despite my husband's assurances that Luke was staying and that he needed a quiet conversation with him, Jason lost it. Apparently, everyone knew that my husband was favoring Simon, according to him. The fact that my husband couldn't even inform Simon to hold out for half an hour before bringing him to the yogurt store infuriated him. I assured Jason that I could relate to his frustration, but I proposed that we should all take a seat and have a conversation. In his turn, Luke vented his frustrations, saying that he and Jason were sick of their dad favoring Simon and that he wished he could remain with Jason. My husband started to apologize, saying it was an error and that he doesn't prioritize Simon over the kids. He was quickly confronted by Jason, who said, "You always just make mistakes and leave me and Luke on the back burner." Jason then prompted my husband to recall the last time he had spent time alone with either Jason or Luke. Jason wasted no time in reminding my husband that Simon had accompanied him to both of the events he had mentioned. In defense of himself, my husband insisted that Simon is welcome to join them as they are a family. Then Luke yelled back, confirming that their dad has gone on 3 separate out-of-town excursions with Simon in the last 15 months. This clearly disturbed Simon, and he began to distance himself. Simon was promptly comforted by Jason that the problem did not lie with him or anything he had done wrong. Rather, it stemmed from their father. My husband attempted to clarify, stating that Simon is simply more sensitive than the other boys, but Jason countered by saying, "See, you've got 3 upset sons, and you still run off to coddle Simon." Simon thereafter went upstairs to his bed, and my husband began to trail behind him. After that, Jason delivered a harsh reality check, telling him, "You want Simon to be your only son so badly. Fine, you can have your wish." Jason then warned her husband not to contact him or Luke in any manner, stating, "We don't have a dad anymore." Luke added, "You already act like we don't exist anyway." I watched as my husband had an insight at that same second. He knew how much hurt he had caused by ignoring our 2 elder sons. Seeing the pain in my son's eyes caused my emotions to surge as his face drooped. I asked them to remain since I was a complete disaster and needed to speak things out in order to figure out how to get through this. After claiming he could no longer bear to be at home, Luke pleaded with me to let him go. Jason gave me a comforting embrace and promised to call me tomorrow to make sure Luke was doing his homework. Luke needed space from my husband, so I had to let them go, even though I wanted him to stay. Devastated, my husband rushed to the kitchen and cried uncontrollably. He's never been one to show emotion, but he was taken aback by the fact that our 2 older boys wanted to end their relationship with him. I wanted to blow his horn since I've been advising him to quit showing favoritism to one of his children for a long time. Even showing up for Luke once was too much for him to handle. Despite my enormous fury, I restrained myself from yelling at my husband by assuring him that I love him and understand his pain. But I told him I loved our kids more than anything else, and I would divorce him if he didn't make amends with his boys and treat them fairly now. "I don't want to lose my family," was his straightforward response. I told him I'd take care of it, and that, once in a while, he should focus on his other sons instead of getting up to see how Simon was doing. My anger was boiling up, and I was attempting to keep from bringing him down any further than what our sons had said, so I guess you could say I was being passive-aggressive. Simon doesn't dislike him, and his brother's problem is with their dad, not him. I spent the next hour calming him down. I told him that it would be okay to give them some time since they weren't responding to his texts right away. My emotions are spent, and I don't know what to do. For whatever reason, my husband is doing a night shift in the guest room, which is something we normally only do when one of us isn't here. I'm starting to wonder if we should end our marriage because of this or because he won't try to make things right. Even if we remain married, I doubt I will ever be able to forgive him for breaking the hearts of our children, the one and only major problem we've ever had. In retrospect, I see my lack of assertiveness and intervention with my husband as a failure on my part as a mother. That my husband may not be able to fix things before it's too late is another source of anxiety for me. What am I to do? Am I stuck? I received a call from Jason the following day as promised. He informed me that Luke had adjusted well and was doing well. When I inquired as to their feelings towards Simon, Jason informed me that he and Luke had discussed the matter the previous evening. We can all see that Simon is well aware of his status as a favorite and often acts on it. So even though they don't directly accuse him, it's hard for them not to feel some animosity toward him. Finally, the 2 lads contacted Simon to tell him that they weren't angry with him, but just wanted a moment to collect themselves. I was able to remind Simon that sometimes individuals simply need space, which reduced his sadness. Jason invited Simon over for a movie night a few days after I dropped him off at his place. Uncertain of the exact words spoken, Simon returned a happy man, and his brothers resumed messaging him. Even though I had faith in their abilities, it was a relief to learn that Jason and Luke are mature and caring enough to let go of their anger of Simon. When it came to my husband, I must confess that I gave in that night due to my weakness. He remained awake and engrossed in his laptop as I made my way to the guest room. When I inquired as to his whereabouts, he produced his screen and said that he was looking for therapists. He was the one who had to take the lead as I had never recommended anything. I wanted to know why he was seeking out a therapist, so I poked him. He needed an expert's opinion on how to fix matters with the lads because he knew he just had one shot at it, he informed me. I felt a great deal of relief from the tension and fear I had been experiencing after hearing this. I begged him to return to our room while I sobbed. In our 22 years of marriage, he has been called out less than 5 times. The next day, he took off work, which is unusual. After meeting with 3 separate therapists for an hour each, he ultimately settled on the second one. My husband believed that this therapist, an older man with grown children, could relate to and understand his situation the best. He had my utmost admiration. A brief apology and a commitment to self-improvement were suggested by the therapist that my husband sent. Neither the therapist nor I made any changes to the material while we evaluated it. His own words were used exclusively. His writings include,
"I'm sorry, I messed up. I've been messing up for years. I hate that I let it get to this point, and I hate that I hurt you both so badly. I love you. I will always love you. And I know you may not want to talk to me right now, but I've started therapy. And I hope in time you boys will forgive me and give me a chance to be better for both of you. There's so much more I want to say, but I would like to say it in person. You can always call, text, or come home whenever you're ready to talk. I'll drop whatever I'm doing when you're ready. Please don't hesitate to reach out. I love you both. Love, Dad."
Luke phoned me and invited me to come over a few hours after my husband sent the message. Jason and Luke were present when I got there, and they were wondering whether their dad had actually written the message by himself. I told them he had, stressing that he had written every word and that neither his therapist nor I had contributed. They were relieved to hear he cared, they said, but they needed more time. At this point, we also talked about how they felt about Simon. My husband texted them, and then another week went by with no answer. It broke his heart. He sobbed uncontrollably in our bedroom one night, expressing his deepest regret for ruining their love. My husband was worried that he had permanently harmed his relationship with his sons, and that they would never forgive him. I tried to convince him that this wasn't true, but he still didn't trust me. I pushed him to keep working on himself and to keep seeing his therapist. Things also started to shift in his relationship with Simon. My husband began to spend less time with Simon even though he was the only kid still living at home. Simon, to my surprise, never complained about it. My husband came to the realization in therapy that he had been the one who had always suggested spending time with Simon, whether it was by suggesting they do something together or by inviting him to come along on his errands or dinner runs. My husband was finally texted by Luke 5 days ago to ask if they could talk. Right away, my husband said, "Absolutely," and then he wanted to know where Luke preferred to meet. Jason and Luke were planning to drop by the residence, according to Luke. My husband followed through on his promise to contact his work and request time off due to an unexpected family matter. I brought Simon to my mom's place so the boys could be honest with their dad without fear of upsetting him. We were all in the living room when Jason and Luke showed there. There were many tears, but my husband handled it perfectly. How competently he dealt with the matter is beyond my ability to express. He admitted the bias without denying it and offered an earnest apology before detailing his progress with his therapy. Previously, he had rationalized his partiality towards Simon by telling himself that they were simply closer. But now he saw that their closeness was due to his abandoning his other boys in favor of his relationship with Simon. At long last, my husband requested a window of opportunity to show. He promised that he has grown up and will treat them fairly going forward. While Luke accepted his apologies, Jason said he wished he could forgive him, but worried it would be too late now that he was gone. In his response, my husband reminded Jason that he is, and always will be, his father and pleaded with him to give himself a second opportunity. Jason acknowledged that he refused to let his dad back in, citing his desire to avoid experiencing the same type of agony. as his reason for not wanting to lose him. In addition to working on his communication skills, my husband sought the boys' input on what else he might do for them. Jason expressed his desire for an authentic relationship, rather than one that seemed forced. All Luke wanted was an embrace. My husband sobbed into his arm as he made a solemn vow to never miss another one of Luke's events. He also pledged to set numerous alarms the second he hears about them. We all want our family to heal and grow stronger, so my husband recommended family counseling. The boys were hesitant at first, but they eventually agreed to give it a shot. Luke returned to the house, making a joke about how delighted he is because his bed is cozier than Jason's couch. On Saturdays, we've resolved to spend quality time together as a family. There isn't much we can do until the pandemic limitations are lifted, but my husband has promised to contact the lads to find out if they are free for lunch days. As a means of strengthening their friendship, he has also taken to playing video games with the lads. He often joins Jason on the mic to converse during their games. Even though they usually talk about the game, he said it felt wonderful to talk to Jason. Final thought: he'll get Luke the PlayStation 5 he desired at the school event. But my husband should wait until their relationship has been mended before purchasing the PS5, as suggested by the therapist. Therefore, it feels more like a sincere gift than an apologetic gift. At this point, I must say that I concur with you. We are currently in the process of speaking with a few family counselors that my husband's therapist recommended. I admire that he's really stepping up to the plate here. He has found therapy to be beneficial for more than just one circumstance, therefore he plans to keep going to visit his own therapist. I must confess that I still harbor concerns about the durability of his new attitude. Yet this represents his utmost commitment to resolving the matter of favoritism. Honestly, I'm crossing my fingers that this is only the start. The boys are already in a lot better mood, and it warms my heart to watch the males in my life chatting and joking together. This has been my wish for a long time, and I have faith that it may come true with the help of family counseling and my husband's ongoing therapy. Therapy, though, has our full commitment, and it is assisting in opening the door to recovery. If he returns to his old ways and harms our children again, I will leave. I've already told him. Our boys must have had a tough time reintegrating with him after only a short period of separation. I refuse to sit idle by if this happens again. However, at this time, I do not have any evidence to suggest that he is not completely committed to this transformation. I am offering him a second chance, just like our children have, because I want what's best for my family. He must use caution when utilizing it.